I know the people will like just see that and go like, aliens cancelled? What? No, it's to do with this. Alien 3, the ridiculous reason the original version of Alien 3 was shot down by 20th Century Fox.
So we're finding out it's like 30 years after the fact.
Yeah, I don't get. I'm all game for these stories. I love these stories. These are good
I
fun.
know, but okay, so where does this come from now?
Well, it comes from the director, the original director of Alien 3, Renny Harlin, who was...
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's out. He just did a movie. Shit,
Yep.
what was it? Remind me.
Strangers
Yeah,
Part
that's
1
it.
or something like that. Yeah,
Chapter
yeah. So
1.
basically,
That answers my question.
yeah. So basically, Alien 3, this version, because there were many versions of Alien 3, an insane amount of versions, right? So this one was a version which would see the alien come to Earth, right? And he says it here, so it's radically different. He says, I always thought I had a good idea. I was working on Alien 3 in 89, which was before Jurassic Park and all those movies. So the concept of having these creatures on Earth for the studio felt scary and unattainable. For me, it was the natural evolution. We've had the alien with the truck drivers in space. We've had aliens with the Marines in space. And where do we go next? Let's bring the aliens on Earth and have them going through the cornfield. I had the poster already in my mind with the farmhouse and the cornfield in moonlight, and they're going through the cornfield. To this day, I think it would have been a ginormous hit movie because it would have been the first time anything like that was done. But for whatever reason, the studio felt like, the audience won't buy that. And he continues a little bit further and says about the studio shutting it down. So let's put the aliens on a prison ship. How am I going to relate to a prison ship? But that's ancient history. I'm not blaming anybody. But for those who don't know, I worked for a year on Alien 3 and I quit politely, respectfully, because I couldn't stand the idea of, after Ridley Scott and Jim Cameron, coming up with a movie that is just not going to live up to what the audience is expecting and give them that experience. The key to me, just to say again about the Alien movies, was that they have to be relatable. They might be in outer space, but the characters are you and I in outer space, and that's what makes them tick. I really like this. I thought it was fun. Basically, they didn't think it was going to be relatable enough, so they cancelled it. I don't think that's necessarily I don't necessarily think that's the actual reason. I think some of it could be budget.
There was a bunch of stuff, and I think the part of this was Sigourney too, wasn't it? She had some demands and changes and stuff. Yeah.
For this particular one, I have no idea because there's so many bloody versions of Alien.
I know. 3. Well, and this is what pisses me off about this. This is one of the few times Renny Harlin's probably been right about something since Last Kiss Goodnight. Because that is what everybody wanted. That was what the original teaser trailer had told us was going to happen. Was that they were finally coming to Earth. This is kind of going off of what I was saying in the last show that we were talking about this. That would have been finally seeing something in the alien universe we hadn't seen yet in time appropriately. And not only that, it's a version where you could have let people live because they would have just come back to Earth, and it's been that many years, and all of a sudden, now they know something's coming or something's happening to where something gets brought back. Whatever the setup was, at least you didn't have to kill Newt and what's his face off. Hicks, yeah.
Well, I think they always would have killed. Well, no, they wouldn't have had.
I don't think they would have had they come to Earth. I think it would have been set up that Sigourney Weaver and them made it back to Earth, and it's just this is that many years later. That would have been my hunch on that.
Well, he quit acting, didn't he, for a while? That's why, I guess. But But yeah, they wouldn't have had to kill him, I guess. But
their whole reason at the time that I remember the reason they killed her and him, and because he was upset that he got killed because he thought he was going to be in the movie, and it was because of her age. She got too old in between. And that's where it wouldn't have made sense for the story. And I said, well, and that's why I said it would have been stupid. Why didn't you just have her make it wherever she's going to go, and then you just have Newt be older now? You know?
Yeah. I mean, the reason. So I don't think this is the full picture anyway. I think the reason why this was canceled,
plus they wanted her alone as well, which was stupid. But
yeah. I mean, well, just hear me out. I think the reason why I can't imagine them having the budget to be able to set this on planet Earth in a way that would be feasible and make sense.
At that time, you're probably right. Yeah.
There's just absolutely no way, which comically they probably would have spent that much money on the overall Alien production from Alien 3's production from start to finish because they had so many stop starts.
Yeah,
so
all
many
the
different
money they
versions.
wasted. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I think a lot of it would be because how do you do that? I mean, they're talking about a cornfield. Okay, but you still have to see the wider Earth at that point as
It's
well.
only like, think about it though. It's only, you know what? Because this movie, the Alien 2 3 came out in what, 92? Wasn't it? Or
Yep,
90?
92. You're right.
Yeah. I think so.
Okay, Jurassic Park comes out the year after that. 2 years after that, or 3 years after that, we get Lost World. Lost World has that exact scene in it.
Yeah.
Remember when the Raptors are coming up on the guys in the field? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, look, it's just one of those things that this whole Alien 3 was a complete shit show.
Well, and
I don't
Alien
hate
3 was
the
just
idea.
on the cusp of just before CGI and stuff like that too. And I agree with you. At the time, what Renny was saying, there probably would have been too expensive for Fox. Had it been 2 years later, that'd have been like, go ahead.
Yeah.
I
just
actually like the Alien 3 script by William Gibson, the one that they released the audiobook for.
That's a good one.
I haven't heard that.
I much rather
Good.
would have seen that movie than what we got with Alien 3.
Agreed.
In the 2 cuts, and I've read or heard of or read over one of the earlier versions too. And I do remember that there were several versions that were supposed to take place on Earth, but at some point, I don't remember if it was Sigourney or somebody like that changed something, and then and then they got that in their the harebrained idea to cut her hair off, and they give her an extra $1 million for that.
Well, no, there was also the wooden monk planet as well. That was
the
original. That was another original. This is all over the place. This movie is just fucking, honestly. You could do a whole feature length film.
You could
just
a documentary would be great on it. Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like a feature length documentary film on how many versions and what happened behind the scenes on this production.
And I don't hate Alien 3 either. That's the funny thing. I just hate. I hate what they did to Hicks, and I hate what they did to Newt.
Yeah.
Past that, I like it. And I actually thought they could have gone farther with the concept, because I brought this up before, because this is where they got the idea of that the alien could, basically use any living thing as a host. And I love that this was technically the dog alien, but it was the bull alien or whatever for real. But
yeah, but I mean, they did in the Kenner toys, which I've got versions of.
Exactly. And that was meant to be in the series too. Yeah.
Anyway, culture. What do you think about this?
Look, I mean, it's interesting to find out these things in arrears. I've always liked the history of why something didn't get made, or the production hell that things go through. So it always seems nowadays to be tied to some other project that somebody's in, talking about the basically the way they have to transition franchises over time. But as Nick said, there were some things that were intriguing that would have become great films. But sometimes nothing works out, and to understand the patterns of failure, I think the best quote that goes with any of this is that to make a film, you have to get 1,000 things right, and only one thing has to be wrong. Yeah, well, whatever.
You're stealing my quote. If you're going to say it right.
Well, I think somebody else said it as well. But
no, okay. I said it first.
Okay.
I looked.
Okay. I don't believe you.
He Googled it.
Yeah, but I will say, yeah. So that you have to get all these things to go right, and only one thing has to go wrong. And that's incredibly accurate, even if Tom did say it. So,
and just think how hard it was for them to follow up with Aliens. I mean, it's like follow up Terminator 2.
Well, and that's where Renny Harlin would have been a perfect choice too, Nick.
Yeah.
Go on, Bo. Let's get your thoughts, buddy.
Nick just pipped me. That was the exact point I was going to make. There's a couple of films. It's going to be almost impossible to do the next one and it be even on a par with it, let alone better. Aliens, for me, Aliens is one of the greatest films of any genre. I'm in love with Aliens. It's brilliant. It's really, really brilliant. It's one of my favorite films. And as for sort of a sci-fi gore type horror thing, whatever Aliens 3 was almost certainly going to be a step down. And Nick said it exactly, like Terminator 2. Whatever Terminator 3 was going to be, it wasn't going to top T2, was it?
No,
almost certainly. So it's just a very, very, very difficult act to follow. So yeah, I mean, Alien 3 for me, I've got very, very mixed emotions about it. On one level, it's really disappointing and crap. On another level, it's like, well, no, there's some good redeeming bits. This bit was good. They could, whatever they were going to do is going to be crap in comparison to Alien, so it's not that bad. I to this day, I've got really mixed emotions about Alien 3. And as for Alien 1 was one of the films, for some reason, I wasn't allowed to watch. I was allowed to watch Alien. I was allowed to watch 18 rated movies. By the time I was about 12 or 13, for some reason, I saw RoboCop 1 way too young. When ED-209 shoots that dude up at the beginning in the boardroom, I was far too young. That affected me too bad. I was like 10 years old or whatever. But I was allowed to see Aliens when I remember being like 10 or 11 and just loving it. And I wasn't allowed to watch Alien. I think it's because of the chest bursting thing with John Hurt. Anyway, because that is like pretty real, and it's quite real. But anyway, Alien 3. I didn't actually know. I knew vaguely about all the hoo-ha behind the scenes about getting Alien 3 made, but I've never really known a great amount of detail about it. I've heard bits and bobs here and there, and the whole thing was a bit of a mess. But I actually don't know about it in fantastic detail, which you guys do. So I'll leave it there. But Nick just picked me on the hard act to follow thing.
Yeah, I remember James Cameron coming out saying, where do they go after T2? And he was talking, I can't remember who he was talking to or the interview or whatever, but he was talking about, where you go from here is the war, that we see a little bit of at the beginning of T2, because it acts as a sequel and a prequel at the same time. But, if they would have done that for the third Terminator film, and had it been about the war, where we actually got like the blue laser rifles instead of what we got in Salvation, Terminator 3 would have been way better of a movie. But
yeah, agreed. We got some alien related super chats, which I saved for this segment. So guys that have been waiting, that is why they've been waiting quite a while, almost an hour for these. So I am sorry. But Depressed Canadian for $10 says, this might have been discussed, but Cameron's Aliens was a very feminist movie. Interesting. A battle between two mothers, Ripley and the Queen.
Yes.
The only reliable male was Bishop, a robot, as Hicks was out by Act 3. That's a very interesting lens to view Aliens through. I must say, I've never actually viewed it through that lens. There is definitely a motherhood runs quite through Aliens as a result of Ripley waking up, realizing, her daughter's gone. She's been, disappeared in space for like 57 odd years or whatever it was.
That's what made Isolation so cool, because you got to hear her story.
Yeah. And then obviously with Newt and sort of the sort of adoptive nature of that. Yeah, there is a strong motherhood element. I never viewed it really as a feminist movie, though.
I think that's a good point. I wouldn't necessarily use the word feminist because that's quite a fairly heavily laden word in all sorts of ways. But the general point that person's making now, I would 100% agree with. I think Ripley in Aliens, specifically in Aliens, is one of the greatest heroines of all time.
Yeah,
a warrior.
She wasn't written as a woman in the first movie, exactly. Yeah,
right. Just the strongest possible female lead with sort of hardly anything obnoxious about her or anything that doesn't fit or Mary Sued in there. I think I know Nate agrees with me on that. I think no one really.
No, I
well, and Cameron is good. Well, that's the thing is James Cameron knows how to write. At least used to know how to write decent heroines. Right, some of the best we've ever had in cinema. Because between Sarah Connor and Ripley, and I'll give him credit for Ripley for what I just said, for what you just said too, Bo. Because in the original film, they were all written as unisex characters. It didn't matter. Ripley was just another character. The fact that she was female didn't matter. In the second film, Cameron really leans in, and especially if you watch the special edition, extremely leans into the fact that she's a mother who lost her daughter, never got to see her daughter grow up. And then now all of a sudden she's had this, had this adopted daughter thrusted upon her, and she just slips into that motherly role without hesitation. Right. And I don't adds that extra layer to her character.
I don't view it as thrust upon her. I actually view it as her reaching out in that motherly capacity as a way to
right. However you want to look. I mean,
PTSD.
what I meant by thrusted upon her, she never expected it. All of a sudden, they find this kid.
Right. Yeah.
And without resistance, she like just her motherly instincts kick in. You know what I mean? Like you just said, she instantly like, no, don't scare her, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And then she comes in and she talks quietly to her. And from that moment forward, they have that bond, right? And that's what people hate about part 3 is that you broke that bond. You took that away from her. You know what I mean? Like people were very attached to that relationship. You know, that's what the whole scene built up to. Stay away from her, you bitch. Man, see, right? Like that's the moment everybody's waiting for. That theater erupts every time that happens, right? Because we know she's going to go save that little girl. And that's the whole point.
Well,
so like, it's all earned. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unlike the new J-Law trailer, if you saw that, or Jennifer, or J-Lo, J-Lo, not J-Law, J-Lo. Yeah. It's her in the AI movie coming out.
Oh, I'll have a look. Accent Seller says, yes, I can see it now after the new Beetlejuice movie and the new Alien movie comes out. Fans, there is only 2 Alien movies. There is only 1 Beetlejuice movie. 2024 sucks. There's some really good films out this year. So I will say no, 2024 doesn't suck just yet. I'm very much looking forward to Longlegs. That looks incredible. So we've got some others here. So Depressed Canadian continues, says, in Aliens, the events of the first film were described for the audience in the board meeting scene, hiding a plot recap and deepening Ripley's character. I'd not even noticed that, to be fair, not from that sort of narrative perspective. You are completely right, actually. It's a very ingenious way of recapping the audience and what happened in the previous movie. Very, very smart. Harlin's version also was possibly going to be a 2-parter with Hicks as a protagonist in part 3, Ripley in part 4. Did not know that either. And there's more. Sigourney Weaver said she was Ripley as a loner and was the reason they killed Hicks, Bishop, and Newt. Cameron has said that Alien 3 and 4 all include story beats Weaver pitched to him while making Aliens. Well, then she's not very good at pitching films, is she? Because 3 and 4 are demonstrably lower in quality. 4, oh my God, is it bad? I recently did a drunk Alien movie marathon. So I rarely drink, but when I drink, I drink. And I just sat there drinking wine and beers and stuff. And I wasn't drinking that much in Alien, and I wasn't drinking that much in Aliens. And then progressively, my God, I just got worse and worse and worse. And I was very drunk because holy shit, Alien Resurrections is just plain bad. It's a bad film.
I don't know why they let actors get involved in storytelling and dialogue writing on the hoof.
Joaquin Phoenix recently with Napoleon, you were saying.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Yeah.
Oh, right.
I just simply would not allow it. And it's quite common, I understand, because they're because in big films where there's a massive actor, they're being paid so much that they get to sort of do what they want a little bit or to some degree. And it just shouldn't be. A lot of people that have worked in the movie industry for years and years and years, they say that your average actor is just an airhead. Not all of them, of course. Lots of them go on to be brilliant storytellers or brilliant movie makers. You know, someone like Clint Eastwood or something. You know, there are examples.
None of the new ones, though. That's the thing. It's the old ones who had an education. Right. It's all about education first.
I'm going to let Joaquin Phoenix write dialogue for Napoleon Bonaparte on the hoof. No, I don't think so. No, I don't think so, actually.
The dude who can barely talk?
Yeah.
Like, has everybody noticed that? Like, that's his acting.
Yeah, just sort of mumbles, doesn't he?
Yeah, you can't even understand what the fuck he's saying. Heck, he's saying half time. And I looked this up. This is true because I thought it was Michael Biehn did get paid for being in Alien 3, even though
I know he did. Yeah,
yeah. And this is something that would be great in the documentary because they hired him for the movie, then they effed him around. Fincher got involved, and they said you're not going to be in the movie, but we want to use your picture. So he took them to the cleaners and got paid more for Alien 3 than he did for acting in Aliens, just so because they screwed him over so bad. That was funny.
It. Brilliant. Accent Seller says, my Alien 3 script, Alien lands in LA, forced to undergo Transformers surgery. The acid blood kills everyone. is chased by Antifa and hilarity ensues.
I actually would watch that.
Yeah,
So would I. Harlin did Die Hard 2 so bad compared to 1 and 3.
You're right, Accident Seller, but at this point, he was. I mean, there's a lot of people who liked Die Hard 2. I
like Die Hard 2.
But there are even Roger Ebert gave it this glowing freaking review for some reason. It's like, did you see the first one, Roger? But anyway.
Depressed Canadian says, don't forget Ridley Scott and James Cameron were going to make Alien 5 in 2002. Cameron writing and producing with Scott directing. Fox also chose to make AVP at the same time, which made Cameron quit.
Is that true? I don't know about that.
I don't remember anything about that.
I was going to say, this is the first time I ever heard this.
That's new to me.
I hated AVP being on Earth.
Me too.
I thought it was a terrible idea.
AVP was the first film I ever read leaks to. The script for AVP leaked back in the day.
I remember that.
The first film I ever read any leaks for. And I remember reading it and going, this cannot possibly be what they're going to do in the film. And lo and behold, it bloody well was, and it was awful.
Yeah. The comic book version was so much better than the movie version.
Yeah, wasn't in Antarctica for starters.
Yeah.
And last but not least, Accent Seller, actor input. Remember Stewart and Picard series? Yes, Patrick Stewart and Picard. My God. Right, well there you go. Nice little sort of mega section on Alien there. Again, guys.